What's happening, YouTube? Jonathan Pariente, the Execution 10 here, coming at you guys with another video. Want to ask you guys to please continue to check and subscribe to my channel for more YouTube videos. In this video today, it's a topic I haven't discussed in a while. Yes, today was the AL wildcard game, and congratulations to the Tampa Bay Rays for winning. It was a very big day in the sports world, also the start of the NHL season. But today was about wrestling, professional wrestling. Today was the debut of really two things on wrestling today. First was the debut of NXT going to 2 hours, so not 1 hour on and then 1 hour on the WWE Network. But the big one was the debut of All Elite Wrestling on TNT and AEW, which had a couple of very impressive pay-per-views, was selling out in a matter of minutes. They finally now debuted on live television, and they're going to be for the foreseeable future, as they and NXT will be on every Wednesdays at the same time for 2 hours, basically competing against each other. And definitely want to take some thoughts and processes away from both of these shows. First, I love the direction AEW is trying to go. They have a lot of talent on their roster, good veteran wrestlers, some up-and-coming stars, and we really kind of see not only how much the crowd gets into these matches, but you kind of really can tell and really get a nice idea of the story each wrestler in each match is trying to portray. I'm going to explain that very quickly. I'll start with AEW first. A very interesting idea to lead off the show, and this was planned for the debut to begin with. So it was Cody against Sammy Guevara to lead off and be the first official televised match on the new debut of AEW. And the match definitely fired on a lot of cylinders. Cody did win the match at the end, but the key to this match wasn't only just Cody winning. It was to further highlight the potential and the future stardom of Sammy Guevara and what he will eventually bring to this company. Cody Rhodes is already an accomplished veteran. He's been in the WWE. He's been with Impact Wrestling. He's been with Ring of Honor. He's really been all around the wrestling world. And now here he is on AEW, where he really found his niche on this brand. And he did a very good job putting over Sammy Guevara, really allowing him really to showcase the talent that he's going to bring. Cody did his great work of storytelling in the ring, and that allowed really both wrestlers to come away with a very solid value at the end of the night and to the respect of the AEW crowd. The matches got interesting. We had the one title match with Riho against Rose. It was a very intriguing way to crown the first ever AEW champion. And again, there were a lot of good spots in this match between both competitors. There was even a point where Riho was able to deadlift powerbomb Nyla Rose off the top. Oh, excuse me, Nyla Rose. I keep Nyla, not Ayla. How she was able to powerbomb her, not really being one of the bigger of the women's wrestlers on the roster, but being able to powerbomb her off the rope, and then just put together a solid match, come away being the first ever AEW Women's Champion, and really allowing the feud to get further developed. And, I like that. I like that AEW really is allowing all these wrestlers to really wrestle to their full potential. And as if that weren't enough, we had a couple more good matches to follow. We had Hangman Adam Page. He took on Pac, which, for those of you who don't know him, he was known in the WWE as Neville, the very athletic cruiserweight that once was one of the most dominant cruiserweights on 205 Live. And both of these two put on a very, very tremendous and athletic wrestling match. Pac in the end would go on to defeat Page, and it really kind of is interesting what momentum he's been on. At one point, Hangman Page got the opportunity to challenge for the AEW World Championship to become the first world champion of the brand, and he lost in that match to a well-accomplished veteran, Chris Jericho, which I think was the right move to put it on Jericho. And speaking of Jericho, he would go on to also main event the final match of the night. It was a 6-man tag match. He would team up with Ortiz and Tito, both of whom were part of the Latin American Exchange with Impact Wrestling. And they would go up against the crew known as the Super Kick Party. And we all know them as, of course, the Young Bucks, Generation Me, whatever you'd like to call them. And they teamed up with, the great one, Kenny Omega, who had been dominating the Ring of Honor and just dominating New Japan for years. And of course, he and Jericho had a very epic match at the start of the new year. Jericho and Omega had a tremendous 30-plus minute match in Japan. And you just love the performance both of them put on. It was a very, very good rivalry match. And towards the end, of course, we saw Jon Moxley, Dean Ambrose, make his appearance first time on the televised show and continuing his feud with Kenny Omega, a match that they never got to have at their last pay-per-view because of an injury. Jake Hager, of course, was Jack Swagger. So we really are seeing a good mix of different wrestlers. Dusty Rhodes also came down. So we're seeing a lot of a good mix of former wrestling talent from WWE, from TNA, from Ring of Honor, and of course from Lucha Underground, which of course also some of their Lucha Underground stars are competing on Impact Wrestling. So this is a very good way to kick off things for All Elite Wrestling, and what they're eventually going to bring to the table, I think, is going to be tremendous, not just for TNT, but for all of Wrestling Nation. And I like the system that AEW is starting to go with here. What your record is could determine title shots. It shouldn't just be some random guy that has done nothing and then all of a sudden he gets elevated to a push, and then if the push fails, he's going to get buried and we never see him on the card again. AEW, and it was highlighted throughout the show, you saw the little records for these wrestlers and matches. I think that's going to be very good, and it's a good thing to have to determine will they earn a title shot and who are the best in line to get a title shot. We'll see how AEW carries this. I like the setup. The broadcast crew, Jim Ross calling it, is great. I mean, that's perfect for the network. Tony Schiavone was a surprise. I didn't expect to see him on AEW, but that's a perfect fit for that with that broadcasting crew. It's brilliant. And heck, Justin Roberts, the old WWE ring announcer, now doing the in-ring announcing for AEW, I think is going to be was a nice touch. So good things are in store for AEW, and we'll definitely see where that brand takes off. Now, very quickly over to NXT. They've been on the air for a while. They, a couple weeks ago, finally debuted on the USA Network on television. And finally, the first couple weeks, it was 1 hour of wrestling, and then the other hour would be shown on the network. Now, from here on, they're going to be 2 hours, and boy, NXT continues to just evolve, and they continue to not disappoint, which is great. 3 title matches to kick off this NXT. The opening match was just perfect. To have Adam Cole taking on Matt Riddle to kick off the show, and I think that was a brilliant move on NXT. You want to get the biggest match on the card to kick it off, and these two put on a near 20-minute match that was just perfect. Just incredible spots, incredible wrestling by both of these competitors, and you really see why Adam Page is such a big star from his days with Ring of Honor. You see the same thing with Matt Riddle. Both of these two have really impressive wrestling skills, and both of them really got to put their skills on full highlight today. In the end, Adam Page of the Undisputed Era came away, of Adam Cole of the Undisputed Era came away with the victory and retaining the NXT title. And again, the card just got better. We had 2 other title matches to follow. We had Shayna Baszler taking on Candice LeRae. That was a pretty nice match there. Good performance for Candice LeRae. Really put up a good fight. In the end, though, just not enough to overcome the Queen of Spades. And Shayna Baszler really is just a legit badass on NXT. I mean, she can just carry that women's division. Will be interesting to see when she will drop that title and eventually come to the main roster. I'm kind of looking forward to when Shayna Baszler will be on Raw or SmackDown. That could be hopefully very, very soon. Then we had the tag team match to close out the night. The Street Profits taking on Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. Both of whom also are from the Undisputed Era. Again, both of these two to close out the show put on a tremendous tag team match. At the end of the night, it was the Undisputed Era that retained. But the Street Profits definitely are a legit tag team. And I'm hoping eventually, now they make spot appearances on Raw and SmackDown, etc. And I'm waiting to see them actually get utilized in a match on the main roster at some point soon. And I think we're going to see it happen in very, very shortly. But when it will be, we'll find out. It was nice seeing Finn Balor make a surprise return as soon as Adam Cole retained. Finn Balor kind of made Cole realize very quickly, I'm on NXT, and I think, you know what, I'm actually surprised at this, because I thought Finn Balor was going to come back on the main roster at some point, maybe like at WrestleMania, return as the Demon. But I think this is good having him on NXT, because they need a little stardom. They need a little main event, a good main event type match that could really carry the show a little bit, particularly now with the competition that's coming from AEW. And I think that is perfect to have on the brand. I think that is, we're going to definitely see where that ends up. Johnny Gargano was also in a match. It wasn't a really big, popularly, insane match, but he did what he had to, and that was a brilliant, again, another great match for Gargano. Hopefully he will get thrust back into the title picture at some point. Maybe he'll go after the North American title at some point. We had, of course, another great women's match in addition to the women's title match. We had Io Shirai against Mia Yim. That was tremendous. Tell you what, Io Shirai as a heel was I think the best thing that happened to her. She just has such a different personality and just such a different style of wrestling and a more fierce style to boot. And I think that just really flows with her character. You really see it in some wrestlers. Some are meant to be faces, and some are just meant to be heels. Take Sasha Banks, for instance. She was a wrestler on NXT. She wasn't really doing anything. She was like a clean-cut brunette, didn't really blow away anyone, just kind of tried to be Miss Nice Girl. And then the heel turn happened against Paige, and she went from a nice girl to Miss Mean Girl to legit boss. And the rest is history. And just, the hair, the dyeing her hair different colors was just perfect. Going from red to pink to blue right now. Can't ask for really anything more. And a nice way to close the show with, after the tag team title match ended, Adam Cole, of course, was there to congratulate. And then the shocking return of Tommaso Ciampa, who, again, I don't know if this is the start of something, but, Tommaso Ciampa just underwent neck surgery not too long ago, and if he comes back quickly from that neck surgery, I think Adam Cole is going to have a very big feud on his hands for somebody particularly that never lost the NXT title. Ciampa had to get rid of it because of an injury, a very career-threatening injury to that matter for him. So now it's very interesting now if Ciampa comes back in the picture all of a sudden, and if he does quickly, boy, things could change on a dime for the Undisputed Era. So really altogether, that closed out NXT, and I have to really give props to both AEW and NXT for delivering very solid performances throughout the entire night. Now, if I had to pick a winner, and this is always a tough one, but I think for the first night, I have to give it to NXT. I think NXT from the very beginning had an agenda that they wanted to set. They knew they were in competition with AEW, and they wanted to come out swinging at the opening tip of the show. By the time AEW had gone on the air, really about a couple minutes in, NXT was already in the middle of their NXT title match. It had already kicked off, and while I was on AEW, they were still doing the ring introductions for Cody and for Sammy Guevara and kind of really building up the hype. Both shows I'm happy with didn't have too much talking segments. I wanted to get right to the wrestling. I like that in shows that just get right to the wrestling. We don't need to have a million talking segments to slow the speed and the fun of the show down. I want to get right to the fighting. That's how I am. And definitely know you want to have the right storylines to build to those matches, but you also like that the story was told in the wrestling match itself. Not every show is able to deliver that fluidly. Both shows did today. So I have to give my hats off to both shows. But in the end, I think NXT did a better execution with their show for the 2 hours it was on the air. From having the 3 title matches, from having the world title match kick off, to ending it with the tag title match, and then just having the nice, the shocking return of Ciampa to kind of close it out. Just to have a perfectly balanced show from start to finish. For AEW, again, it's only their first show. They're only going to get better. Do not get me wrong. But there were kind of some parts that, did they build up some of these matches solidly? The second match was like one of their worst matches to try to establish one of their top heels in MJF for AEW. But again, it was like a very quick match. It didn't really have any build up to it. So I kind of didn't see where that match was going. The Cody build-up with Guevara was okay. I like that. I was kind of shocked the Jericho match didn't have as much. It had, you definitely saw like what Jericho winning the title and all that, but didn't really have that build-up for me in that with the tag match. It was just kind of a match that was just kind of thrown in there, and because it was a couple main eventers, that was why the match ended the night. But again, I think, this was only the first week. I think AEW is only going to get better. And I expect it to get better. And I expect the wrestling to get even better. But NXT delivered with all phases of their show from start to finish. Solid matches. Very good abilities by both athletes to really bring out the best in the other. And you really see how the crowds were both into it. And that's a very big difference in both wrestling shows. You want to build a solid foundation with the fan base. The minute you lose the fan base, the show is going to go south in a matter of minutes. Just like when you listen to a radio show. As soon as you listen to that host or whatever, and as soon as you lose it, as soon as he loses the audience with you, it's over. You've already lost who knows how much of your audience, and then the show for the rest of that night is going to probably go nowhere. So props to both shows. NXT won round 1. We're going to see who wins round 2. But at the end of the night, both shows accomplished something very exciting. It's made wrestling fun to watch again. And I think fans are going to look forward to this every week now between NXT and AEW on TNT and on USA. And this is going to be a very important week altogether for all of wrestling. Raw made its season premiere with its new music and etc. SmackDown will make its new premiere on Fox, back on Friday nights where it was. And I expect this to be very solid competition going forward for all brands involved. Wrestling is back, folks. And I'm going to end this video in the words of... that dude from, that Brit dude from Wrestle Talk, what does he go, welcome to the Wrestle Talk News, I'm Ollie Davis. And that was wrestling. Jonathan Pariente, The Execution 10, saying bye for now.